Those numbers are worrying, but we do have a little more clarity on the COVID vaccine strategy, the distribution, the rollout. Mark Heywood from Citizen Maverick writes today that the question will be whether the ANC and the government, fractured, corrupted, demoralized and extremely heterogeneous in its understanding of medicine, proves capable of putting this ambitious plan into practice. Heywood goes on to say that there will be issues that, these will be the issues that bedevil us in coming months. You've just heard Paul Mashatile from the ANC saying that measures will be put in place to make sure that corruption is dealt with. Mark Heywood, let's continue the conversation. Good afternoon to you and welcome. First of all, you write today and you seem convinced that we now do have a viable plan. What gives you that optimism?
Well, Jeremy, I think in 5 or 6 days, they say, a week is a long time in politics. We started out this week with nothing on the table and with uproar about the lack of access to vaccines, about the lack of a tangible plan in South Africa. But, yesterday the health minister presented to Parliament the targets, the timeframes, the mechanisms by which we're obtaining the virus. In fact, there's a great deal of detail. I sat on a Zoom meeting in the afternoon convened by Cyril Ramaphosa. And I think that what now exists passes as a defensible and ambitious plan. Of course, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. To get 40 million vaccinations in the next 12 months, which is what we need to do to get to this point of herd immunity, is unheard of. And so really the challenges are going to be in the implementation. And one of the things that I say in the article, and perhaps you'll come to, is that not only do we have to monitor very, very carefully what government is doing, but there are also big questions, emerging questions about what you might call vaccine hesitancy and misunderstanding in our country. So really we need everybody to pull together on the basis of science and saving lives if this outline of a plan that we now have is indeed going to save lives in the months ahead.
Mark Heywood, you would have seen the Ipsos poll, I think it was towards the end of last week, that said something in the region of 47% of South Africans were concerned about taking the vaccine. They had fears around it. So as much as the logistical side of this is critical, the messaging, as you're suggesting, also needs to take a position front and centre.
Well, the messaging is critical, as you've said. Much like we saw in the United States with President Biden elect and Kamala Harris being amongst the first to take vaccines, we need to see President Cyril Ramaphosa, we need to see Jeremy Maggs, we need to see, the leaders of our sports, our rugby teams, our thought leaders, our musicians, demonstrating to people that these vaccines are safe and efficacious. And we need to get the message out to people that our health regulatory authority, once it authorizes these vaccines, is as good a regulatory authority as any in the world, and that these vaccines are safe and that the risks to people are extremely, extremely minimal. And also I think we need to build literacy in this country about what vaccines in other spheres in relation to other diseases have done to change the landscape of illness in the 20th century. So yes, a massive communication campaign, an innovative communication campaign, an imaginative communication campaign, a campaign that people can understand, that builds knowledge, is critical. Without it, we will not succeed.
Mark Heywood, just finally, I think I saw a statement earlier today, and I do stand corrected if I'm wrong, but government was committed to doing away with middlemen when it came to distribution of the vaccine. If that is correct, that is to be welcomed. Nonetheless, though, the process, given the amount of money that is involved, is open to corruption. Paul Mashatile from the ANC, who was talking to me earlier, said the president is expected to say something tonight about plans to mitigate against corruption. Doesn't matter what he says, this is still a concern.
it certainly is still a concern, and we must all be watching very, very carefully. We've been stung by PPE. We've been stung by the health infrastructure. I think that there's less scope for corruption with vaccines because there really is no need for a middleman. You know, there's the manufacturer, there's the government, and then there's the question of distribution. But corrupt people and people with corrupt intent always find their ways in there. And certainly, you know, we in the media, yourselves, myself at Maverick Citizen, together with civil society, are going to take nothing on trust. This time round, we're going to continue to demand answers, to demand transparency and accountability from day one, because we don't have any money to waste any longer. No time to waste, no money to waste. We've got to get this job done.
I absolutely agree with you. Mark Heywood is the editor of Citizen Maverick.